Welcome everyone to the May meeting of the ASU Digital Accessibility Liaisons. Whoops. So today we're gonna have a very brief kind of some announcements from Madeline Biesel about some of the new accessibility tools that are going to be available or are available already at ASU. And then we'll be having our presentation is by Jarell Fox, leveraging templates for accessibility. And then at 3 o'clock, we will hang out here online. And if anyone has any questions, if you have had any problems that have come up over the last month, let us know. We can talk about them. Just open Q&A and open discussion. So without further ado, Madeline, you want to tell people who you are?
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. So my name is Madeline Beitzel. I'm a technical web project coordinator at Enterprise Technology, and I manage some platforms like Site Improve and Equidocs. Those are both digital accessibility tools. Equidocs is newer. Site Improve and the other one I'm going to talk about called Equatio aren't as new, but just want to give them a shout out in case someone hadn't heard of it before. So I just have a couple slides with some information about each of these tools. You can go to the next slide. So the first one, which I'm hoping most people have heard of, if not already using, is called Site Improve. And that is an automatic crawler that detects accessibility, SEO, and quality issues on your sites to help ensure that you're compliant with WCAG 2.1 standards. If you'd like to get added, if you're not already in Site Improve, you can submit a ticket. And I'll drop the links in the chat when I'm done talking so that people can grab those more easily. But to get access, all you need to do is submit a ticket. Those tickets come to me. I'll get you added in there as a user. If you need to add sites, use the same link for the same ticket. You can also ask questions there. Some additional resources. The Site Improve Support Slack channel is great for asking some general questions or just seeing if maybe your questions have already been asked. I also try to post updates there if there are any kind of like bugs or strange things going on. And then there's a Site Improve support page on their website that I have found helpful for beginners or those that are just kind of getting started in Site Improve. Go to the next slide. So the newer one that we just rolled out is called Equidocs, and that is a PDF remediation software. This allows you to more quickly and efficiently improve the accessibility of your PDFs by automating some of those manual remediation tasks. And I know some folks have used this before and are really excited. So it's been launched for a few weeks now, so I hope folks have gotten in there and started using it. Similar to Site Improve, if you want to get access as a user to Equidocs, you just follow that link to submit a ticket. Super simple. Those tickets come to me and I get you added. You can also submit any questions via the same ticket, or you can send me a message. Another additional resource is that there is a small article or page on the Ally site, accessibility.asu.edu, that just has some general information about what Equidocs is, and there's some additional links on that page for like how-to videos and resources for getting started in Equidocs. And the last one we'll talk about, and go to the next slide, is called Equatio. This is not a tool that I manage, but it is a tool that we got a question about recently from someone that was looking for help with making their math-heavy documents more accessible. So I just wanted to give it a shout out in case anyone hadn't heard of it yet. But Equatio is an equation editor tool that simplifies the process of creating accessible math equations and scientific notifications. So think about all the faculty that are teaching math-heavy courses. Those documents can typically be a little trickier to make accessible. So Equatio should make that easier for you. To install and get access to Equatio, you can just follow that lx.asu.edu/Equatio link. And there are some clear instructions and videos on how to get started there. There's also a page on the accessibility site, again, that just kind of talks about what Equatio is, how to get started, what you might find useful in it. And then there's actually a recorded training from a previous Digital Accessibility Liaisons meeting when this first came out, I believe 2 summers ago. So that video is a helpful step-by-step tutorial as well. And that's all I had for these 3 tools. Hopefully some of this folks have already heard of. And again, in a second here, I'll put those links that I shouted out in the chat so they're easier to grab. But feel free to ask any questions as well.
Thank you, Madeline.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you coming in and telling us about the new tools that are coming out. Um, Alejandra, do you want to introduce our presenter?
Yeah, sure. Okay, let's see. Can we put the deck back on screen?
Um,
Can you share the deck again?
yes, I can. Hold on just a moment. I think I can. There. Can you see it? No, no, I'm not sharing, am I?
No.
Here we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay, and we're off. Okay, so today we are going to have a presentation from Jarell Fox. Jarell is the Vice President of the Escape the Classroom and Director of Learning Experience Design at We Learn. She will be presenting on leveraging templates for accessibility. The training will provide practical guidelines for creating effective templates and outlines using essential formatting techniques to ensure accessibility for all users. I'd like to hand it off to Jarell. See where
Hi
is
everyone, I'm over here.
okay,
I
go
have
ahead.
permission to share. Okay, let me make sure I can share my desktop. As Alejandra said, I've worked in instructional design for over 10 years, both in higher education and in corporate learning and non-for-profit organizations, and kind of fell in love with accessibility. So, um, this topic kind of came up as I was working on a summer project. And when we talk about leveraging templates, what I'm going to kind of focus on more is Canvas, more than anything. But those of you who are using like websites or something like that for um, marketing or things like that, these are some ideas that you can use as well because it'll help either way put the content into the web so that it's a little bit more accessible for everyone. So with that, I don't have pretty slides. I like to just use a Google Doc because it makes my life a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down. So I'm going to talk about why this is important. So I feel like this is a really good important topic because templates are create an easy and consistent navigation. And starting with a template can lessen any cognitive overload of someone building a course or a website for the first time. I'm sure you've all gotten that blank page and you're like, I don't know where to start. Or maybe you're helping someone who's building and you're like, they don't know where to start. So that's where it can help in that instance. It can eliminate some common accessibility issues such as formatting headers and table formats. And I'll show you some of that as we go. And for our designers out there, you'll appreciate this one if you've run into it because this is part of what I ran into this summer. It can eliminate some common missed items such as changing the discussions to graded, submission types on assignments. Sometimes that gets forgotten about, and then shuffling the answers in a quiz. So that's kind of what I'll be going through in our discussion. Um, if you have questions as we're going through, feel free. The chat's a little harder to see when you're sharing screen, but I'll try to catch those. And don't be afraid to come off of mute and say, hey, I have a question. So we're all here to learn together. So when I'm talking about templates, one of the first question comes up is what to include in a template. And as I have learned, you all use Quality Matters. So I'm going to use that as the guide. It is a guide. It's not something, I want you to sit there and say, you have to go out and buy it. It's not. I want you to know it's just a guide. I'm going to put in the chat the link. Let me see if I can find the chat. Where did it go? I always have a hard time finding it once I'm sharing. There it is. There. That way, if you would like to open it on your screen, or I'm going to share here as well. So Quality Matters has 9 standards, and you think of Quality Matters as a rubric, and that's exactly what it is. It was created by educators to create a common format for courses to make sure that they met a quality standard. On the page and the link that I sent you, on the right hand side, there's the annotated things, which if you click on it, you'll see it goes into a lot more detail on the standards and everything in it. And I'm not going to go over all those. This is just kind of tells you more specifically how to meet each one of the criteria, but I just wanted to kind of give it as a reference point. So back to my thing. So they have 8 general standards. And in these standards, these are what our foundation of our template is going to be. That way we can use that. And we know where we're starting at. We know our starting point. And then we can build that template using our tools in Canvas, and I'll show you those, to make sure we're meeting accessibility and we're also meeting these criteria. So the 8 are our course overview and introduction. Of course, we all know those are important. And just like a website as well, it's important to know what the website's about. Our learning objectives, the assessment and measurements, the instructional materials, the learning activities, learner interaction, course technology, learner support, and then our last one, accessibility. Now, when Quality Matters talks about accessibility, they're more talking about the guidelines as into where students can find support. They're not getting into the nuances of the WCAG. They're not going into that detail, or 508. They're not even really talking about it. They do mention closed captioning. They do mention transcripts, things like that. And I think alt text has been added to it as well. So when we're talking about these 8, I like to break them up into 2 categories when we're talking about our template. So I'm going to scroll down, and then I'm going to show you these. So don't worry. Right now they're just in the document. I'll show you what they look like. So 2 categories here. Our orientation unit, which is all those things that will be common among your courses. And that way, no matter what the course is, you're going to have course technology. And that can be all the technology things the students need to know in order to access that course. Learner support, where do they find support? And then the last one, the accessibility, where do they find accessibility support? Maybe there's a specific tool you're using in the course that they need to know that where they find accessibility support for that specific tool. Then I break it down into each week / module, which module introduction, weekly outcomes, instructional material, learning activities / interaction, and then our assessment and measurement. So I'm going to give a quick pause. Does anyone have any questions currently? Oop, I moved you and now you're over there. Okay. Nope. Okay, so now I'm going to show you what this looks like in a Canvas course. This is a very basic Canvas course. I don't have any design tools or design elements in this course. Go into it. So whenever I open this page, the first thing that I have is the home page. This is where the course information lives, some quick links live, some instructor information and contact information there. And then these are just courtesy links. This still uses some of the formatting that I'll talk about in the next page of our heading 2s here that are super important when we're building a course. So I'm going to go now into the modules that have been created. And as I just mentioned, this course is set up for 6 weeks, but it always starts with this introduction module. All of them do. And it covers all those information that we were just showing. And each page, and this is where this is very helpful, is now that we have this set up, now we can talk about how each page is formatted. So in this first one, the course overview, I'm going to click on edit. And we're going to see that these are all H2s. H2s are the highest level in Canvas because it views the title page as a title. So then it drops down to an H2. Headings are sequential. So if this were to be a H4, it would flag it with my lovely little accessibility checker here saying, hey, wait, this is not in the right order. And this was one of the issues that popped up in courses that I was working on is these were all H3s instead of, and you're going across 6 different modules. In this case, maybe it's a 14-week course, maybe it's a 16-week course. Now you're fixing it across all these courses in different subject matters where, okay, now we're having to change this to an H2 instead of an H3. That way the screen reader knows, okay, if it reads it as an H3, a screen reader may think, wait, I might have skipped something. So someone who's using that might go, wait a second, what did I miss? Then the bullet points are also formatted correctly instead of them just typing it or copying and pasting so it doesn't have the formatting, which again, it will kind of flag it, but this helps eliminate that so that it's already available for them. So any questions on this, babe? No, I'm gonna go ahead and keep on checking on. I'm gonna go down here and click cancel because I don't want to save this. As I move through each, I'm not gonna go through all the introduction pages because they're set up very similar. They're all using the H2s, the H or the list. So what really comes into a change here is our course expectations. In the course expectations, you'll notice my table now has a table header. And this is very different than the header you see here, because this is more of the name of the table. And this will get flagged in your accessibility checker. The course that I was using for this, they use You Do It, which is very similar to the one that she was just talking about, where it'll scan everything and look and go give you recommendations on what to fix. And table headers is one of those things. Yes, it says the same thing, but it's also in how the screen reader reads it. So it'll let them know this is the table's basically its name. It's his first name versus this is the city or town it lives in. Then also in our tables, they're formatted, and I can show you in the column in that row. It's in the row. The row properties, this row is already identified as a header row. So now we don't have to worry about when this is duplicated, that's already identified. This table would also have this column here identified as a header row since information is both in the row and in the columns. And so that formatting is already set. I'm gonna save on that one. Oh, wait, I wanted to show you. So if it didn't have it, so if I took this off, I always love this example because he already tells me, I say he, my tool already tells me that it's missing, it calls it a caption. It's the same terminology that it wants me to add it back. So as soon as I add this back in and apply, I get the lovely balloons. It tells me, yay, I've met accessibility on this page. And the accessibility checker, if you haven't used it, it does get a lot of the elements. It doesn't catch everything. Your other tool does catch a little bit more. And then I always recommend the good old fashioned check it yourself because I have noticed like URLs, the URL may work, but when you click it, it doesn't work, if that makes sense. Like it still says the page is not working. sure there's nothing in the chat. Go on. I'm going to go ahead and click save on this. So that is the kind of basic of the orientation, and I'll go into the week in just a second. Was there any questions about the formatting on orientation? Oh, I keep doing that. Yeah. Alejandra said you all were a quiet group. It's okay. All right. So going into the weekly structure, and a lot of these headers that you're going to see, they were kind of combined of what was seen in the courses that the instructors were using. So it doesn't mean they have to be there. They're just suggestions. And as you saw in this template, in the orientation, there's block text here to tell them, hey, here's an idea of what we want you to include here. And as we go through the week, it's the same thing. It's set up where when the instructor or whoever the designer is designing, they have little keys there to say to them, hey, make sure to add this. Ideally, they will take these parts out when they're done. Sometimes they do forget, so that's, part of a cleanup job there, but usually they do, so that helps. In our introduction, same thing here. We have lists that are formatted correctly, and we have the table again has its weekly schedule and has the header row identified. So I'm going to go. The next one I wanted to show you is in our learning resources. Now, the learning resources is a bit different, that not only do we have a heading 2 here, but then we go into heading 3s, since they are underneath. These are the resources that need to be provided. That way they can know that those are nestled under them. One of the other things that could be even added here to increase the accessibility is a little note. Please watch I still left a bracket. 5-minute video on whatever it is here. And I highly recommend adding this little note above every video for 2 reasons. Number 1, it lets someone know that, hey, there's a video coming. Number 2, it helps with knowing how long the video is. That way you can plan time-wise. If you have a family or anything like that, you understand that, oh, wait, I have this 5-minute video I need to go watch. So you can say, okay, I need to wait and do this later. The students are the same way. They may need to carve out that time. Maybe it's a 30-minute video. Maybe it's something that, even in using an H5P item or articulate rise or whatever you're using, is giving that lead in so that they know, okay, this is coming up, and they know that it's something to interact with. So this helps not only your students who need accessibility, but it helps those who need to plan that time to go, okay, I'm going to need to spend a little bit more time here to actually interact with this element and give it my full attention. So it's always highly suggested there. Scroll down. I do not want to, actually, I'm just going to save. It's fine. One of my things, as I mentioned before, and I moved to this next page, that when you fix this a bunch of times, you all who build courses will understand that this was one of your pain points, probably, when you had to go into the discussion and change every one of them to graded and add the points. So a template can help with that. So it's an added benefit. Get the chat out of the way. Added benefit in the way that you won't have to, if it's not graded, then it has a reverse effect. But likely it is graded. Points were already added here. And as a bonus, it's already set up in its group. So now when these courses are being used, those are less things that you need to go in and fix. So kind of helpful from a design standpoint. Um, and then as we go to the next one, and if you're building it on our website, kind of think of it in the way of what are those things that commonly get missed or commonly you have to fix or forget about. So it helps with that as well. The next item on the template is the assignment. And as you can see here, it uses the same format. It's already got its points associated with it. And then in the submission, it's already set. So again, lessening the amount of things that need to be fixed later on and have to add to the course. So that's been super helpful. And then again, it's already in the correct group. Likely, it's not going to get moved or changed. It's going to stay the same. So, then, they're adding due dates maybe here and a little bit of cleanup job there. Quizzes. To be completely honest with all of you, I do not like the new quiz tool. If you've used it, you understand. So this does use the old quiz tool. The new one, I always have to ask for permission to use it, so it's been fun to use. But setting the shuffled answers there so that that way it's one less thing. Again, it commonly gets forgotten about, so setting that up as well. And again, it's using the same format. These are H2s in this as well. And then the last item in the template is a wrap up. Again, doesn't need to be there, but kind of helps those global learners understand, okay, I had an introduction, I had all this thing. Now let me reflect back on what was just talked about in this whole week module, whatever terminology you're using, and so that they can come together with their information. I'm going to pause for a minute and ask if there's any questions on this template. Okay. So you're probably wondering, well, how does this help with accessibility? Well, when these courses were first done, you're running the accessibility checker, you might get like a 90%. I haven't yet gotten anything that's less than like a 90%. Most of it came down to these elements, came down to really this page here was the biggest one. The headers being identified correctly and being in order, the table having a heading, and then the table row being identified. So I've met 3 of those things, and then now I'm like, okay, those are the big things, corrected those based upon the suggestions from, it was, like I said, it was you do it, but yours is very similar. Or, knowing that, okay, I need to add a table header here, or I need to make sure that these are the correct heading or they're nestled correctly. Because, I mean, this could be an H2 and this could be an H3. That's fine as long as it's in order like it's supposed to be. Then this helped take this template and then it was imported into courses for the summer. And what's happening now is I'm gathering feedback and going, okay, we started with this on the You Do It, it was, wait, Jarell, can we access the Canvas template? Maybe. So I'll have to find out about that. Marina, I can also, I think you'll have the recording too. So it you can always reference it later. Um, Let me double check on that for you though. When this template was done, now rerunning the accessibility checker and going, where are we having issues now? Like what's popping up? And I came into the summer knowing, okay, these are the three things I think it's going to happen. It's going to be links, it's going to be documents, and if someone changed the template, we're going to see some formatting errors. And that has been the case. But overall, this template, and I can, if you don't have the WCAG, I will grab that too. In the WCAG, this does meet the perceivable. It's in guide 1.3. It's in the adaptable, which is you can create content that can present it in different ways. For example, a simpler layout without losing information or structure. And that's the goal here. But sub under that, it's 1.3.2, which is meaningful sequence, which means that the content is presented in a meaningful and correct reading sequence and can be programmably determined. And that's kind of important here because if a student is taking one or two classes at the same time and they all look the same or they're formatted the same, then they know where to find things. They know where to look for things. They know how to go in and see, okay, this is my layout for every single week. And they're all structured the same. They always have an introduction. They always have the learning resources, and they scaffold down into each item, and they know, okay, once I hit that, maybe use the wrap up page. Once I make that wrap up page, I'm done for that week. And now I'm moving on to the next week or the next information. And it just helps them as a student just know, okay, here's my done point. Here's my finish point. This is what I know I need to do, or this is what I did. I have questions. And Marina, if you need to, I can show you and go over it, a little open it up again to show some more if you need it. Happy to do that. Ooh. Any questions? Oh, questions? All right.
It's okay if you don't have any questions. It's not a big deal.
It's okay.
Yeah. Raise your hand if you want. Jump off of mute. No worries.
No questions. I'm just taking screenshots so I can create.
I know it can get a little overwhelming. And if you need me, like I said, if you need me to go through it, it can feel like it's overwhelming, but what you want to look at is going, okay, what is the best way? And like if you use Quality Matters as your guide, and it literally is a guide. There's so many out there, and I think the last conversation I had, I think you guys have a little bit of a guide, maybe in-house as well. Just use that as your foundation and go, okay, start with that. Start with your guide and go, okay, what is required for these courses? What needs to be in there? And go, okay, what can I make that's like global? introduction that would be the same across courses. You know, policies that update, it's so much easier to go into the template and update it one time than to have to go through however many courses that you might be working on, or you know, even instructors are working on, and have to remember, okay, that policy needs to update. Like one of the in this template I have like technologies, it mentions these ones. These are all ones that are commonly used in these courses, you know, obviously Canvas, you know, if we're in Canvas. So where Canvas support, what is the Canvas support, how to access Canvas support, who to contact for Canvas support. If you're using Google Workspace, same information, you know, the who's and what needs to be included. You know, Panopto, the one who uses, they use Panopto to house theirs. If you're using something else, obviously, whatever technologies are common here. And then even in our accessibility template, and I didn't really go into this, but like institution policies, what are those common policies that are on every syllabus? Yes, it's going to be repeated several times, but as we know, people don't read this. So maybe it's repeated again and they see it again. Then even in let me go back. I always forget the order of my pages. The course expectations and schedule, institutional policies, which the accessibility is those policies in place as to who to contact, what to do if they need assistance, you know, Office of Disabilities, those kind of things, whatever the college has in place for assistance. So that's what those includes. And these are, I believe these are H2s as well. Yeah, they're all H2s. Pretty much they're all H2s unless it's something that needs to be nestled, and then it's an H3. So it's kind of dependent upon what was allowed, or what was needed during the time. And then if you can, one of the things I suggest is once you get this template to what you want to include in it, create a training for whoever's using it. Sometimes the instructors are building their courses, so maybe we're teaching them how to use this template, how to keep in mind that these headings are here and why they're here, why they're formatted the way they are, and that if they don't want it, they don't want, like, they're not going to use watch. Maybe they're not going to have videos in their course. They can just take it out instead of trying to build their own and then create more work accessibility wise with headers that are not formatted correctly, or things like that. I will say though, one of the harder ones has been to kind of teach the formatting of links, but that can be included in this and say, hey, here's how to format a link correctly so that it provides a more accessible product for your students, or documents not being named in a good way for students. That can be another thing that can be included in the training, so that it's like, okay, now you know that if you have a document, whatever the document is, you know, this is the kind of naming format you should do. And this template can even stretch further from Canvas. Let's say you're sharing a Word document where you want them to format, maybe you're doing a storyboard. You can format that storyboard to go, okay, I'm using heading 1s, I'm using heading 2s. It's the same principle as making sure that the correct format is used, and same thing with websites. It's, you know, making sure the nestling of the information flows so that when it's run through the screen reader specifically, catches it and goes, okay, this is what this information is for, or what it is, how it's going to help them identify. I will say that our the tool I use likes to when something's a regular text, it likes to say, if you bold it, it likes to be like, wait, should this be a header? Probably, but also when you're not using color for emphasis, the bold is okay. It's fine. It's not gonna hurt anyone to have it bold and not as a header. But it does like to say, hey, no, don't do that. And I'm like, well, it's just to identify it separately from maybe something else. Like it's important. It's an important piece. So, but the canvas checker accessible, just the one that's built in, the little thing here, does catch a lot. So as you're building it, it'll, identify those things. But if you stick to having, using good structure, you see it doesn't come up. I just want to save my publish. Keep wanting to hit save and publish on. Is there any other pages you would like to see, or yeah. It's not my gem again.
So I'm not an instructor or instructional designer, so I'm not that familiar with Canvas, but do we have something like this at ASU where like a template, course template that we can use? Does anybody know if we have something like that already?
So each unit or each instructional design group or what have you, they might have their own templates. We have, obviously we have brand standards, so we use those colors. On the other hand, it depends upon the group. So in Learning Enterprise, for example, we have our own template. We just revise it so it's a little simpler. It's less there's less bells and whistles, but it's much more accessible now. Fewer icons, fewer lines, less bolding, less moving parts, things like that. So, but it's simpler and easier to follow for an instructor to fill in the blanks. And that's kind of the point with that template, at least from the instructional design perspective, is to have it there to basically fill in the blanks. And then from the learner perspective, then they know where everything is, because they don't have to spend so much time trying to find everything, because that's really the ultimate goal of Quality Matters, is just to make a quality course that's easy to follow, easy to learn from. But yeah, Ed Plus has their own template. It just depends. I can't see any other instructional designers on the call right now because I'm in my car waiting for my daughter at pickup. But I can say that, yeah, we do have templates.
At Ed Plus, WPC, and they just made a GPT, whatever that means. So for those of us who are not instructional designers, these letters are sometimes questionable, but they made a GPT to make schedules accessible. ASU Online has a template, and the Learning Enterprise team, which put a link in here. So those are in the chat that you can't see, Alejandra. And I would say thank you, just because laying it out for this way helps me, because I am not faculty, not an instructional designer, but every now and then I have to design something in Canvas and teach it. And this is really going to be helpful to me.
Oh yeah. And Kenya, you mentioned your Ed Plus accessible. So kind of, I don't know, funny story. But so whenever I received this template, they kind of thought it was accessible. They really did. And then it wasn't until we realized that they had the headings, they were H3s. Not, I'm completely honest with you, not a huge deal because it was the way it was formatted. You see, it's formatted this way. But we do want to make sure that they're nestled correct or they're labeled correctly. But one of the other things that I found going through it was a link that was supposedly correct. And it linked, like, if I went to this Quality Matters link right here, the link worked. But the page actually said 508 or 505 error. And I was like, oh, wait. So even though we got it to as accessible as possible, or what we thought was accessible as possible, it was that final going through it piece by piece and clicking everything, which even the URL tool in Canvas didn't catch it because it catches it as in it read that this link was working, but it can't see the page. Only you can see the page. And so it helped it go and through it and go, okay, well, now we can create this link that now when it opens, it actually goes to the correct place. So I always think of that like it's designed to be accessible. You're right. But make sure to go through it too and say, okay, I need to make sure to double check all the elements in the course to make sure, it performs the way I expect it to perform. So definitely a suggestion there. But yeah, the using ChatGPT for schedules, yes, I've done that as well, where especially copying and pasting the HTML coding to make sure it's a clean HTML. So it would still pick up the H3 as being a correct coding, but whenever you run it through, just making sure it's in sequential order was the big thing. So I tell you, I love that. It can go ahead and make my coding, correct for me. So that is super helpful. And I know you guys have your alt text generator, which I actually really love that, by the way, that you can use to help with images and things like that. Those are good as well. To implement and to make sure that you're combining it with a template that has in there. And as I mentioned, this doesn't have a design tool element to it. It if it did, and some of the other ones do, it's just making sure those design tool elements, like if there's using graphics or something like that, those are all coded correctly. Yeah, where is it? Google Docs. Good. Yeah. That's good that you've recognized the formatting of the Google documents and stuff like that. And that's a good, that's a good starting point too. And one of the conversations I've had too is making a PDF accessible. Well, we need to start with a document or whatever it is, Canva, a Google Doc, a Word document that is set up. The template is set up correctly. Because once you have that set up, kind of similar here, you're using the proper headings, you're doing like that. Then when you create it as a PDF, you have less issues you're fixing on the back side of thing. And that's the same thing here. Less issues you're fixing on the back end to make sure it meets accessibility. Oh, no one has any questions. I can turn it over to the Q&A roundtable.
Thank you. Yeah, that was really good. That was really great. Actually have one question. What about when people stray from the template?
Oh, we whip them. No, I'm sorry. Um, so yes, had some do that, and you kind of go back to if you have group that supports you, as in you have the a rubric that you want them to follow, you show them, hey, this is in the rubric I had for this particular one. It has like a higher level of quality matters. And it's just like, hey, like I have one, she didn't put objectives in her course. Don't ask me. I'm like, hey, just letting you know, I have to mark on your sheet that you did not meet this. I have to mark that. Now, what their boss does with that information is between them and their boss, really. You can highly encourage it. You just tell them, hey, look, this is to help your students. And you explain that and just tell them, like, this helps your students. This is how it helps your students. And most importantly, you don't want to get sued. So we can help eliminate that, not saying it stops it completely, but help try to eliminate that. It does kind of help them go, oh, okay. And I have found a lot of them are like, oh, I didn't know that. Thank you for helping me. So a majority of them I get are more on the side of, thank you for telling me that. I'm really grateful for that type of information. I do get the ones that you get the kickback from, and you're just trying to sit there and go, okay, well, how can I bridge that gap? And maybe they did deviate from the template, but how can I improve their content that they have currently? Maybe it's by adding headers or so forth, and show, going, okay, well, you obviously went this way, so let me help you by fixing this element. And you take one step forward and just tell the next instructional designer, I'm sorry, I tried.
So for those of us here at ASU, I just want to highlight one comment that the LX team in enterprise technology provides counseling for template development and guidance. They mention it. So, I mean, take advantage of that. If you are creating creating templates, yeah, definitely consult with LX. And Jeanette put the URL down there. It's lx.asu.edu, and they will be available to help you. Very good.
Cool.
Thank you so much. This was really very thought-provoking. It was great. Thank you.
I hope it helps, have that conversation as you're building courses and stuff like that to, try to come, and if you're not using templates, to try to use them. And like I said, it's not just course creation, it's website creation as well, as making sure that, that format is there. Because once you have that, yeah, templates rock. They do. And they make your life so much easier too. They really do. If you start with that, I have found that, it just changes so much.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us today. That was very nice of you, and it was great presentation. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
And maybe I'll come back. You might see me again.
That would be fabulous. So we're just gonna stick around here, guys. Get back a few minutes if you have something going on, or you can just hang out with us and ask questions, and we'll be here till about 3:30.